So there's this phrase in leftist communities that there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. Now, I'd like to explain this a little bit more and give an analysis of this phrase. First off, I don't like the phrasing, and I'll go into more detail later. But the idea that there is no ethical consumption under capitalism acknowledges the fact that on every stage of the production of an item, service, good, whatever, there is going to be some amount of exploitation. Even if it is thousands of miles away, to people that you will never speak of, never hear the names of, or never knew existed, the exploitation still happens. The phone I'm recording this now is the culmination of so much exploitation. And yes, it sounds hypocritical that I'm using this device, this phone, that was manufactured with means that were so bad. But why still use it? Oh, well, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. I guess that means I could use everything. No. That's not what I'm saying. Because you see, this phrase is used a lot as an excuse to just do whatever because, oh, well, I could boycott everything and nothing will ever change. But, looking at what's happened this year, boycotts do a lot. They may not do everything you want, but they do have an impact, even if it is a dent. But I don't criticize the capitalist system just because I don't like it. I criticize the capitalist system because I don't like it, yet I am forced by the nature of living in a capitalist system to participate in order to continue surviving. I need food, I need water, and I need shelter. I also would like to have a luxury every once in a while, be it a ability to watch a science fiction show or listen to some music, or use this app. But also, the system requires for me to have a telecommunications device to get a job because, you need to have a phone number to get a job. The boomers don't realize a lot of times that you need to have a smartphone to get a job a lot of times. Hell, I legit need a phone to do my job. Because I can't clock in for work or do the emails I have to do at work, working at a hospital, without acknowledging and having two-factor identification for who I am. And I have to use my phone for that. So yeah, no, it is forced participation in many aspects. But there's another aspect I don't like about this phrase, and I'm not the first one to point this out. There's another TikToker by the channel of Maya. I'll have them tagged down below. But the thing is, she came up with this other phrasing for it. That instead of there being no ethical consumption under capitalism, that there's no ethical production under capitalism. Because the capitalist system itself is not democratic at all. You don't elect your bosses. You don't elect your managers. You don't elect your salary. And just as that, you don't elect how the goods and services that you are forced to consume under the system that you are forced to live under, you don't elect how they are made, how they are produced. You don't have a say in the fact that the system of capitalist production that exists requires so much exploitation all around the world. You can acknowledge all of the issues that happen, but, at the end of the day, under the capitalist system, you are still forced to participate in the system unless you participate in the dismantling of the system. And the system likes that first version of the phrase, the fact that there is no ethical consumption, because, like I mentioned earlier, there's that other meaning of, Well, if you can't beat them, join them. I guess there's no ethical consumption. I guess I'm stuck in this situation. That phrasing ignores the root as to why there is no ethical consumption. Because there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, because there's no ethical production under capitalism. And I know I sound like a very confusing broken record with this, because, you can only say there is no ethical blank under capitalism so many times without stumbling around. Which, this whole idea of there being no ethical consumption under capitalism rings very much like the concept of the carbon footprint, which was a marketing campaign created by BP in either the late 80s or early 90s or early 2000s. I forget which. It was somewhere around that time frame. The idea was to pass the blame for all of the global environmental destruction from the companies causing said destruction to the people who are consuming the products of said destruction, despite the fact that they need said products to survive because they are forced to participate in the capitalist system to survive. Thus, saying that there is no ethical consumption under capitalism is functionally passing the buck from the persons who are in charge of the capitalist system, i.e. the bourgeois, to the proletariat. Passing the blame. When in fact, instead of being a matter of blame, the phrase should be used as an explanation as to why we critique the system. But again, people don't like seeing it that way. People like hearing the phrase of why you're not liking something as if you are blaming something. Who is to blame in the situation? Well, I guess there's no ethical consumption. Even though without the production, there would be no consumption. Either way, I feel like this is one of those that, because of the nature of what is being talked about and the phrases being used, it's going to be confusing because it sounds very cyclical. But I think I got my point across at this point. If you want ethical consumption, you need to have ethical production. But because you can't have that under capitalism, the only way to get the ethical consumption is to get rid of the capitalism. Which, there are ways that get you put on lists if you talk about it. Educate, agitate, and organize. Solidarity. And keep boycotting, because it may not do all that much, but it is still a dent, and they do feel it. And any leverage we can get helps until the big push.